But, yeah, my father, yeah, you're looking at, I don't know, 675 or whatever. I started to buy stuff, buy 45s and buy, somebody gave me an 8-track player. And then I started making tapes for the people in the neighborhood. In other words, the tapes like Heavy's tapes, but in the neighborhood. And I think my older brother's friends, but
they would stop by your house, right? They break
another one, and there was another guy in the neighborhood.
I'm going on a date. They used to do that to me in Queens. I'm going out. You got a tape. They would call me.
Make sure the song is on it. I want this song on it.
Yeah, I was like, what do you mean you want a tape? This is. I remember that. Oh, I remember that. I forgot about that.
Yeah, and then there was another guy in the neighborhood right after me, Patty Tapes. He passed away, rest in peace. He lived on Avenue W. And he did tapes, but the difference was he used a reel-to-reel. Now, he would do like block parties and stuff later on, and we became good friends. And he would, if he didn't bring his turntables or he brought them, he would play a reel-to-reel, which was pre-mixed. And then I'm like, how do you do it? So, well, I got these 3 8-track players. I stack them up, and then I plug the reel-to-reel so I can make 3 copies of one tape. And I'm like,
oh,
I was right. I'm like, okay, so yeah, I upped my game a little bit, and I started doing that. And that was the introduction to what later became disco. And right around like 1974 or 75, only a few people, if you lived in New York, you remember, there was the first disco station. It was not WKTO, which people think it is. First disco station was Disco 102.
That's right.
Disco 102. And it was, I guess it was like a Saturday night. And this is the time of, I would hear the conversations of my friends' older brothers about places like Productions. These are all in Brooklyn. Revelations in Brooklyn. Dr. Feel Funnies in Brooklyn. These were all these clubs that.
1, 2, 3, 4. There you go.
Oh, I got to get this. This is my next door name. You believe? Hello.
So anyway, could you imagine that? Disco 102, everybody. Okay. And there was also another.
I don't know who that is. No.
AM thing.
No, don't know.
I can't remember. No, but
my neighbor next door. Anyway, there's somebody blocking driving. I don't have to leave. But anyway, you're talking about 70, huh?
I was talking about that AM station too at midnight around the same time.
WWRL.
Thank you.
WWRL, right? But Disco 102. They were playing the Tramps. Where do we go from here? Gloria Gaynor. Ecstasy, Passion, and Pain. For you people who know that stuff, it's just in the early mid-70s.
Pre-studio.
Yeah, and that's when my mind started to wander. I said to myself, this stuff is so good. And now there are places that you can go where there are women and people that meet. And I would love to take what I'm doing in my house and do it in front of people. That would be something. Now, you see how the rock drummer thing and this is the same thing, but it's just the music is different. And instead of me playing an instrument, I'm DJ. It's the same thing. It's music. So that was my this would be really, really cool. So then, I would, this that guy Ralphie that makes the tapes and all of that. And, you start doing this and that.
He's a good kid. Look at him. He makes a good tape.
Yeah, but again, you got to remember, I still have this fear that's inside of me that was with me my entire life. There's a fear of only going and being safe, not going past a certain thing. And that was a problem because I didn't have anybody to emulate. I didn't know anybody that did what I did. My friend, like Patty Tapes, that was a side thing for him. He just fallen out of business or whatever. And I didn't know any DJs and clubs. I've heard of DJs, but I didn't know any of them. And I'm still a kid. I'm like 13, 14 years old. And then one day it was guess I was in junior high school. I was in junior high school, going to high school, I think the last year. And my friends, I go to my friend's house to go, to go out and hang out. My friend's brother comes over to me. He says, listen, what are you doing Saturday night? He says, I'm not doing nothing. He goes, I want you to get your records and I want you to come to the Drift-In on Coney Island near Kings Highway. We want you to play the music. And I'm like, really? Yeah, make sure you're there. As a matter of fact, I'll come and pick you up.
So we know for sure.
Yeah. So I had, I don't know, stack of records. Like, most of them were albums. I think like the first 12-inch I had was "To Be With You." I forget the artist. "When Love Is New," "Midnight Love Affair" was out at that time. "Down to Love Town," all that stuff. So I went on a Saturday and went to this place, and the DJ booth. This was a bar, small bar, and I walked in, and I was, wow, okay, this is the owner of this one, that one, that one. And in the back room, there was an office. You walk in, there was like the ice machine. When you made a right, and there was a little small kitchen. And you made a left, there was a curtain. And there was a DJ booth in there, and there was I think it was two SL 1500s. They had like just come out, and they had a Club Mem 1 mixer. But it was the first time that you looked out of this glass and you saw like a dance floor. I mean, it wasn't a big dance floor, but it was like, wow. And I just started playing. And then remember, I'm a kid. I'm like 14, and all the girls are like 16, 17, and I'm like, oh my God. And now I'm like, oh, he's so cute. And I'm loving it. I am. This is the deal. Drinks? They're giving me drinks for free? Oh my God. This is heaven. And I stood there for, I don't know, about 7, 8 months. And this is when things start getting really, really fast. I remember having a girlfriend at the time. I think she was my first girlfriend. And I was telling her, I'm going to start work at this club. You're not going to work in our club. We're not going to be together. We're going to work in a club. So I had to make a decision. Girlfriend, don't work in a club bar, or work in a bar, and no girlfriend. I think we all know the decision that I made.
Yeah, the decision went the opposite direction. We got it.
Yeah.
Girl, you left the bar back there. We got it.
And that was the beginning of a long and winding road that
hasn't ended.
Sometimes I still can't believe it. Just weird.
Okay, so we take the Drift-In. Start up, baby. Turn on the machine. Take us on the journey now.
Okay.
Where it gets exciting, everybody.
Yeah. This is the turning point. One of my cousins gets married, and I'm in the bridal party. So anybody from the 70s knows we went to the bridal party. You ought to wear the bridal party has this. The guys have the same shirts and ties and everything, and the women have. I had a crushed velvet blue tuxedo with the big bow tie and the ruffles with the sandwich. I still got a picture somewhere. I couldn't find it. I wanted to give it to you to show how funny I look. But after the wedding was over, my cousin and I decided to go out. He says, "Where do you want to go?" I said, "How do I know?" And don't ask me how. I don't know where he just said there's a place in Bay Ridge called 2001. I'm
going to show that picture, everybody.
Yeah.
Cartoon version of it.
Yeah, that came later. I'll explain what that picture is.
That's what it looked like.
It's an illustration of it. In other words, it's a real photo, but they did an illustration of it.
So he goes,
that's where we went. I mean, he took his father's car or whatever. Now, I'm pretty sure that I went home and changed and put on regular clothes because I wouldn't have been out with a tuxedo like that, sticking out like a sore thumb. Anyway, we go to the club, and I think it was Gloria Gaynor or Carol Douglas or somebody was there. It was a band, and we're charging a cover thing. And I remember going in. This is the first like club that I went in. You know, you walk in, and all of a sudden you turn and you see this big room and loud music, and I'm like, wow. I worked in a bar. There was 50 people, and you couldn't walk. This place, you're talking about 500 people. It was big. I was like, wow, this is really, really cool. And I remember my first drink, rum and Coke. It's like $1.50. I'm by the bar, I'm sitting there sipping my drink, and I'm looking around. The first thing I said to myself, where's the music coming from? And I look around, and I locate the booth on the stage, and I look, and I'm saying to myself, wait a minute. That's Mike Rella. I got to mention Mike Rella. Mike Rella, I went to high school with, and he was in a rock band and stuff like that. We had similar interests. So I'm trying to get his attention. I can't believe he's the DJ in this place. Wow. I'm trying to get his attention. And he tells me, come up. So me and my cousin go up. And what's going on? What are you? And we start talking. How the hell did you? I didn't know you were a DJ. He's just, well, my band plays here. And he's just trying to be cool and everything, which he was a good guy. And what ended up happening was I was so taken back of what was going on in the booth. Now, you got to remember, this is the beginning of a part where a lot of people don't understand at that time. Saturday Night Fever did not exist. There was no inclination. Disco was an underground neighborhood thing that, people, like I said, the radio, Disco 102, all of that stuff. It was a place to go other than a bar. But it was a music and people doing like the bus stop and things like that. So there was no movie to bring people there. It was just a neighborhood thing. I mean, there were other clubs in Bay Ridge that people were going to, but this was just a club that happened to be there, and I just happened to all this happen freakily or whatever. So we're in there for about 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then this guy comes in the booth, and it ends up being the owner's son. And the owner's son was the DJ there, but he was the DJ. It turns out that Mike used to open and close for Chuck. Now, he didn't really tell me that, and I get it, but okay, fine. But anyway, I started hitting it off with Chuck, and we're talking about sound systems and EQs, and I noticed a very strange thing happened, which I did not expect. There was a band, whatever band it was, and they were starting to tune up before the show goes on. And all of a sudden, they pulled the plug for the music out by mistake. Everything went out. Why? Because the guy was trying to plug his amp into the stage, and that's how bad the wiring was. It's like, I saw that, and to me, I knew at an early age to excuse the language, fuck up in front of people for any reason is fucking bad. And I was like, oh my God, how freaking embarrassing is it? So they put the thing back in, the music goes on, never chuck on that thing. Oh, my plug. And by the way, next week, this person here, that person's there. And I just looked at him, and I says, man, well, why don't you? It's so easy to fix. Put the plug somewhere else where you know they're not going to pull it out. And from that moment on, we kind of hit it off, and it was cool. So nobody knew all of this stuff was chance, all chance. And
but even before you go there, what was this club Odyssey known for before it was a neighborhood disco? Because people
okay.
Because you got to explain the Odyssey thing of what it was.
Okay. 2001 Odyssey is at 802 64th Street in Brooklyn. It was called, before Odyssey, it was called Club 802. And I'm talking from like the late 40s up until 1976 when it became 2001 Odyssey. I'll get to that real quick. But it was a place that my parents would have went to go see Lou Monte, any of those stars, like all those shows that were like in the late 40s, 50s, and 60s, all of those bands, they would do shows there. I can't really think of like Lou Monte.
Darcy, Glenn Miller.
yeah, stuff like that. In other words,
man,
people who made it big that were on their way down, and then the people that were happening at the time. I'm sure they had like 50s groups, but it was a Norwegian, like a Knights of Columbus type of thing. And the building was old. Everything that was in there from 1940 was probably still in there. That's how old it was. It was not a glamorous looking place. It was all dark and stuff. But later on in 1976, the owner, Chuck, the guy that I was talking about, the DJ, went to his father because it was kind of dwindling at that time, the people going to see all these old acts and stuff. So, Chuck was like 4 or 5 years older than me, so he had gone to...
What's Chuck's family name for everybody? His
name was Russenack. Chuck Russenack. Chuck had a sister. Let me see. Chuck had a sister, Denise. His girlfriend and was Buttons, who was was in the movie and stuff. It was like camaraderie thing. So remember, I'm like brand new. I'm there a week, 2 weeks, just meeting Chuck for the first time, and then Chuck invites me to come on Wednesday because they have bands, and one of the bands was Mike Rella's band. They would play. They would have like nights. So Odyssey was changed into 2001 Odyssey in 1976. Chuck, they went to like Delancey Street and bought those plastic balls that look like planets, and they put them up with fish line, and they wanted to make it look like it was a space thing after the movie 2001 Odyssey. There was a movie that came out in the early 70s. So they put like tin foil on the walls, and it was dark, and Christmas lights. And now, if you watch this, a lot of people, you don't pay attention to stuff sometimes, but they had Christmas lights along the walls. And you could see it in the movie. And it was later on, I just laughed at that. Unbelievable. But
big upgrade, everybody. Christmas lights.
Yeah, Christmas lights. And the tables and chairs were old tables from different heights and chairs, plastic chairs, wood chairs. And the tablecloths were like red plaid and red and green. There was no color coordination.
Typical pizzeria style.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Old pizzeria style stuff. There was a kitchen in there, and he used to serve food and all of that stuff. But it was not a glamorous place by no means. So, by the time I had gotten there, we're looking at 70, end of 76, beginning of 77. It was the same club, but it was just disco. Now, the floor, there was no lighted disc, but there was none of that stuff there. I'll fast forward to the good part, which I come in one night and I come up. I actually had the night off at the Drift, and I was still working. And I came in on my night off, and I remember walking up to the club, and I seen that there was like a brawl going on in the front. Guys, kind of commotion. I'm coming up club, and I see that my friend Mike was involved, and they were pulling these people apart, whatever. And now he was too odd for me. Hey, Mike, what's going on? I think it's a bad time, but he goes downstairs into the club, into the part where the stripper is in the movie, that small area. And Chuck is down there, and they're wiping his eye, and he's like, fuck this. I ain't fucking doing this no more. Da, 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 da. What the hell is that? So we go up into the booth, and Chuck starts playing, and Chuck is saying, Mike doesn't, he's done. He doesn't want to work here anymore. So something happened with his girlfriend. There was a fight, and Mike wasn't that type of a guy. Clubs wasn't really his thing. He was really into the rock shit. So he was gonna quit. He's gonna quit. And then Chuck says to me, how about this? Why don't you come and work here? I forget what I was getting at the Drift in. $30 a night at the time, which $30 a night. You work twice a week, $60 a day.
Drinks,
right. We'll give you, I think it was like $50 for the night. You'll open and close for me, but sometimes I don't come in until 12, 1. Maybe I won't play. It's that kind of thing. So I had to make a decision to myself. I said, no, do I want to stay in the bar where I'm playing? or get a chance to play in a club that's big, nice. And evidently, we all know the decision that I made. I decided to do that. But now I felt kind of bad for Mike. And I also had a problem because back then, you don't walk out of a situation that's handed to you by people that you know because it's just not right. So it just so happens that I think what happened, the guys that were in the drifting, my friend's older brothers had a problem with the owner or something, and they didn't stay there anymore. So now all I needed to do was I asked Mike if maybe Mike wants to play where I'm playing, and I'll play where he's playing. And Mike agreed. He went there. He loved it. Nobody bothered him. He was in the booth, and that was it. So the story is I went there, he went there, and under any other circumstance, it would have been just, that thing that happens every day. Mike was happy, I was happy, and that was it. But then all of a sudden, like I heard this, just these things. I don't know. It's just a weird kind of thing. I come in, I played, I don't know, maybe 2, 3, but let's say a month's worth of nights. So Chuck comes in and he says, they're going to be filming a movie here. I'm like, a movie? What kind of movie? So a movie about disco. And I'm like, really? And I says, who's in this movie? And he goes, John Travolta. And I'm like, who? The fuck is John Travolta?
My John.
Welcome Back, Carter, Sweat Hot. I'm like,
yeah.
Right. No, I don't know. I don't know what this is. Now, you have to understand, to anybody around the world who's watching this, the only people that would know this would be people that are from New York or especially Brooklyn. There was a show called Welcome Back, Kotter. There it is. That's the cast of it. And it was on Saturday nights or Fridays, which is one of the reasons why I didn't see it. But the guy in the corner on the bottom and the left, that's John Travolta. He played a Brooklyn high school, like a satellite class, the class that gets in trouble all the time. And they needed special guidance. And the teacher was hired to, in other words, he went to that school and he was hired by the principal to come back and teach the people the way they wanted to, because he was the only one that knew how to teach them because he came from the neighborhood. And that's therefore was Welcome Back, Kotter. And it was all filmed. It was supposed to be about a high school in Brooklyn. If you watch the show at the beginning of the show, they actually show Lafayette High School, and they'll show New York High School and stuff like that. So, little to me knowing all of this, if they're going to be filming this movie, I don't know who this guy is. So Chuck brings in this magazine, and did you see? I guess it was kind of forgotten about, but the year before, it should be June 76. Is that it? I can't see it. I think it's
June 7th, 1976.
76, unoblivious to me and probably a lot of people because I don't read New York magazine. There's no reason for it, but he brings in this magazine. And I'm looking at this thing, and I realized that the front cover and the pictures inside were pictures that were taken at 2001, the year before. Now, if you look at these pictures, now, this is a very, very, very important picture because that is the basis, that person right there with the blue shirt is the basis of the character that John Travolta played. His name was Eugene Robinson. There was a real Tony Manero, but his name was Eugene Robinson. He didn't work in a paint store. He worked in a fruit store. I think. I'm not sure. But if you look closely, look at the rug on the floor. That's the actual rug that was there. And if you look where the guy's left foot is with the olive pants, the dance floor was tin. And if you look up in the back in the corner, that's where Travolta sat. And then, a long story short, this guy Nick Kahn came in and was going to visit somebody in New York. I can't remember the actual reason why. Yeah, those are the real pictures and without the illustrations. But he sat and he started writing this fictitious story about this Brooklyn person, and he labeled it around this guy, Eugene Robinson, who was walking, and he wasn't like a Travolta dancer and that kind of stuff. He just danced. And he kind of noticed that this guy was, people gravitated to him. And they, I forget her name. It was supposed to be his girlfriend at the time. Look at the shoes, Jesus. But you kind of get an idea. Look at the club.
those are wedges. I remember that girls used to wear the wedges.
Yeah, wedges, right? But look at the like the diner seats and I mean, come on, you got to be freaking kidding me. The place was was a dive back then. You could see like again the metal floor there. But anyway, I forget the guy's name is Nick Cohn, and they put this thing in New York Magazine. And now Chuck is telling me that the movie is based on this thing. Now, I never read it before, so now I start reading it. Now, if you read that, you can get it online. It was the basis of the screenplay that was written later that became Saturday Night Fever. But part of it was, they wanted to give it some extra stuff. So if you know that movie, because I keep forgetting too, as old as I am now, there are people that have never seen Saturday Night Fever. They were too young. And there are people that only knew of it by hearing about it, but never really looked at it. Right. And what it was about, it was about a Brooklyn dancer. Obviously, that's the nowhere job, but there was subplots in there. Subplots. So okay, that's him being that's a take from. I guess that's okay. Cut, John. Let's take a picture. Click, and that was the thing that was actually the movie poster, but it's a different shot. He's got his arms up like. Can you see him there? You get the idea. His arms in the air. So.
Yeah, that made the movie, right.
Yeah, that made the movie poster. Now, you have to understand something. When this movie started being filmed, I was invited to come down to see and hang out. And it was a Wednesday. It was really cool. So they had been filming all over Bay Ridge. And I remember seeing stuff filming here in Bay Ridge in the hardware store, filming there. That's actually 86th Street in front of Lenny's Pizzeria where he eats the slices. So what ends up happening?
Right, they're holding the crowd back. They got to hold
the crowd back. And what you have to understand is, you see, if this was being filmed in Nevada, or was being filmed anywhere outside of New York, they wouldn't have had this problem. But there was millions of people that were watching this show, Welcome Back, Kotter. And once this thing got into the newspaper, they couldn't shoot it anywhere. Every time that somebody found leaked where the shots were, filming in Brothers, and there was all these little things, and they're not realizing that they're tipping people off. And these are all kids, a lot of them young girls, 13, 14, 15, and plus regular neighborhood kids from a baby boom generation of thousands of kids that were going to those shoots every day, and they could not get any footage in. They kept it quiet on the set. Yeah, quiet on the set, scream and yell and blah, blah, blah. This is the outside filming. So then what had happened was that's in front of Shirktown. That's a classic picture of that. That's like, oh man.
When he says, the guy says to him, let me put it on layaway.
Yeah, layaway, the shirt for layaway. Yeah. That's why these are pictures from a collection that, I mean, maybe a couple of people have seen them. And maybe if you looked into it, maybe you'll see them online later. But these are pictures that were taken by person, either me or people that I know that were on the set. And that's another one. I think that's on Fifth Avenue or something. That's him coming out of his trailer.
So hang on. So you said to me something yesterday. I'm not going to let you forget. Remember we mentioned about envelopes and you got Brooklyn. So remember, everybody. Brooklyn at this time is mafioso hard. So let Mr. D tell you how bad it was. Go ahead, Ralph.
Before they filmed scenes in the club, they filmed scenes or the location scenes. And what happened was the producers and the scouting locators got smart. They started putting out fake call sheets and fake locations that we're going to film on 78th Street and 3rd Avenue at 5 o'clock in the morning at this time. Meanwhile, they weren't. They were actually filming on, it was 11th Avenue and this. So everybody would go there and they would get their shots in for all that time. So then what happened is, I think it came via phone call or it came via somebody came to the set and went to the production manager and says, listen, you're in our neighborhood. You want your shooting to go well? You're going to have to talk to us. Otherwise, you ain't going to be able to film. So what ended up happening was, first of all, this is somebody that knows that was there. They got very, very scared. and they went to the higher person up, and the higher person up says, should we call the cops? And they called the cops, and the guy got a phone call from a guy from the FBI, and they wanted him to wear a wire. And he had no idea about any kind of mob shit or all that stuff. And once he was briefed and found, he was like, I ain't wearing a wire. I don't know what you're talking about. Boom. So what ended up happening, they ended up, having to pay. And they, from what I heard, once a week, I believe it was, they had to leave an envelope in the bowling alley across the street from Odyssey with the bartender. And their guys would go in there and get their money, and they would allow them. There was always somebody there watching the filming. And if you look, I mean, I don't know how many pictures there's pictures. A lot of that movie was filmed in the streets. They would have never, ever, ever been able to do that without those people. So now, you're a production company and you have a job to finish this movie. And listen, if it's going to end up adding to your bottom line of how much it's going to cost you to do it, they did it. And, that's a great shot. Yeah, that's, I think they've given directions on the Verrazano Bridge of that scene that was up there, one of the scenes. But yeah, even to shut that stuff down, back then, you look at the Verrazano Bridge, you can never pull a car over and leave it there and go jumping on cables. I mean, come on. You got white suits on and nice shit. You're going to do that. But again, these are things you realize later on. But again, I got to say, most of the realism, they tried their best with the realism and stuff, and it worked out pretty well.